I remember having a conversation with our high school coach
Yeah.
when my kid was playing travel ball and summer baseball and got invited to the lake. This is when, you know, the coach, and it was the only time we've ever had an argument. I was like, man, my kid's literally not stopped playing baseball for about 7 straight months. His buddies invited him to the lake for 3 days. He's going to miss one summer league baseball game. He just got done playing travel all week. Can he take this game off to go for the weekend? And it was high school now. It was, he was a high school. He was going into like his sophomore year or whatever. And, and it was a tough conversation, and he ended up letting him go, but it was just like that was where I was like, it was more of a,
that's funny. Cause I do know this coach.
Yeah.
I want to be clean it up, coach.
I mean, but
it's also funny because you were the AD.
Yeah, I know. Well, that coach had been there for 30 years, so he probably had more leverage than I did.
It's Kirk Herbstreit.
Oh, Sean McVay.
Kerry Walsh Jennings.
Sterling Gallagher.
Ragazan.
John Isner.
Ryan Howard.
Greg McElroy.
Got Drew. Chris Hill.
Mark DeRosa.
Cade Klubnik. Derek White.
Reese Davis.
Marty Smith.
Before we jump into today's episode, I want to tell you about Booster. If you got kids playing sports in middle school or high school, Booster is the easiest way to raise money for their team. From new uniforms and equipment to travel expenses, Booster makes fundraising simple and fun for schools and sports programs. Check them out at choosebooster.com. That's choosebooster.com, or just click the link in our description to see how your team can boost their fundraising this season.
Well, welcome back to Pure Athlete. I'm Jeff, along with Britt and Brad. And me and Brad decided to invite Britt back this week.
Yeah, I mean, the fans, well, did they really?
They did, but we
call
just
us to
felt
them
like
back?
we'll give them
Yeah,
back to
I
the
mean,
fans.
I know, I think
Well, we'll talk numbers a little bit here.
Oh, gosh, whatever.
How was your time in the fish tank?
It was fun. We took the boys down to Miami. We had a really good time. Yeah,
Did you go out to South Beach? Y'all hang out?
We did go to South Beach, and we went to Lauderdale. There's a Seminole Hard Rock Casino
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
We walked through. We didn't even know it was there, but we saw this huge beam of light.
Oh, yeah.
And went over there on a Wednesday night, and it was madhouse. It was packed.
Yeah.
So didn't lose any money there, though.
No, good.
Just walked through.
And you got to see a couple wins, a lot of runs. Probably the most
man.
runs the Braves have scored in
It was
2
like
games all year.
23-2 or something over 2 days. So
Tough ticket to get, though, right? It was hard to get in there.
that was a really cool stadium.
It's awesome. I've told when people need to go down there, you go down there for the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
And that thing is sold out at 40,000. It is awesome.
Yeah.
There's
nobody there.
no. Well, and you know what I mean? They didn't put it in the best part of town.
Yeah. No, it's hard to get
They should have
there.
put it right by the casino,
Yeah.
and then you'd be rocking.
Yeah, it was not a great place.
Yeah. And then we got college football kicking off. Your Jackets are 1-0. Congratulations.
Feeling good. We'll be going into Clemson here when this airs.
Well, you
probably,
should be.
hopefully.
You should be too. What do you got, Gardner Webb?
Yeah.
If you're not 2-0, you got issues.
As a Tech fan, we never have a guarantee.
Yeah,
we
that's
always
true.
feel a little nervous.
We've been there,
but
done
we
that.
should be 2-0 facing the Tigers down at Mercedes, so it'd be fun.
You took your son to the Clemson game.
It was
the opening
awesome,
game?
man. He had the best time seeing those guys run down the hill. And then, of course, Randall, who's a running back for Clemson, number 8. I mean, the guy has like 1% body fat. And so he was one of the first ones to come out when we're down on the field, and Braden looks at him like that. And I'm like, you want to tackle that someday, Braden? And Braden's like, no. It was funny. But for him to experience that, it was a great game. I mean, let's be honest. The kickoff to college football season was unbelievable.
It's a great weekend.
It was unbelievable.
The games, the storylines, and that's what kind of stinks as we release this. Week 2 will just happen, but it's kind of a dud, man. It's like coming back to reality. But the good news is you have the NFL starting.
Yeah, NFL starting, and then week
and
3 of college
as we
football
film this, we got the Cowboys and the Eagles tonight.
That's right.
Cannot wait.
Is it at Jerry's World or is it in Philly?
No, it's in Philly because they're coming off the Super Bowl, so they get a host.
Yeah. That's a great way to start the
Our
NFL
producer
season.
Chris is in his Cowboys jersey
He's
today.
in his Cowboys jersey, and I told him, and I might be completely eating my words, but these are the games where sometimes crazy things happen.
Yeah.
Get rid of Micah Parsons, everybody's ripping you, you come out and you win a football game. Changes the narrative on everything.
Yep.
Yeah. You kind of, I don't know. Do people want Jerry Jones to get that last championship before he passes away? I mean, he's, watching that documentary, which is fantastic. I mean, you kind of feel, it's hard to feel sorry for a billionaire, but it's really an interesting documentary. And I think, I mean, gosh, it'd be cool if this is the year they do it.
I always say this, man. Would you rather have an owner like that or would you rather have an owner that doesn't care and it's a bottom line every year?
Nah,
So
for sure.
I always tell people that. Like what I remember Elich when he was in Detroit all those years with the Tigers. You remember, dude, he was going to get Dontrell Willis, David Price. Like he was like 92 years old. And he's like, I want to win a World Series.
Well, they aren't mutually exclusive. I mean, he cared, and we could say he did some stupid things, but he's got the most valuable franchise in the world.
Yeah.
The value of the Cowboys.
No, that's
you
what
know,
I'm saying.
and
So-
they haven't even been winning, and it's still the most valuable brand
Yeah.
in the world. But yeah, I'd rather have that.
It makes
It's more
football
fun.
interesting.
It's more
that's
fun.
for sure.
Yeah.
Good tennis going on, U.S. Open. I've been watching that every night.
Man,
Some
it's
of the-
fun. It's good stuff.
Watching Alcaraz and Sinner right now. I don't know anybody's going to touch those two until they play.
Well,
Sunday.
as we film this on a
The semis
Thursday,
will be
Friday
going.
night is Djokovic and Alcaraz, and that's going to be really fun.
I just,
Should be
boy,
really
you watching
fun.
Alcaraz right now
Yeah, he's-
on the way his forehand. I don't know that Djokovic maybe can win a set, but God, he's so good.
Yeah, it's
When's the
great
next
tennis.
American that's going to win the U.S. Open? When's that going to happen?
Well, Ben Shelton, man, he got hurt.
He's
Not
probably,
to say he can't, but he's I think the guy that's the most athletic.
he's got the
most-
biggest upside
yeah.
right now because he's got weapons.
Yeah. How long has it been?
Since
20
2000
20-something years. Yeah.
2003, since
Andy
Andy
Roddick,
Roddick won the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
2003.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to get Roddick on our podcast.
Yeah,
He's
be great.
fun. He's fun.
Well, today, usually you two kind of take the lead on some of this stuff, but I'll be honest with you, man. Over the last 3-4 months that we've been doing this, it's so funny because people talk about all the great guests we've had on little things, but they're like, what about like actually real life scenarios? Like what about real things that are actually happening week to week in youth sports that your buddies might call you, look what happened in my son's game, or look what happened. And so honestly, I reached out to a couple buddies. I did a few of these on my own. My wife, I think, did one or two. And I just kind of wrote down some scenarios that I want to go over today and just play them out.
Cool.
And I think what we'd like to do is try to do maybe, I think, once a month or so, do 15, 20 minutes of maybe if y'all listening want to send in some scenarios,
that'd be
we'd love
great.
to play them out.
Absolutely.
It's a great idea.
And for you two, you're not in the youth landscape as much anymore, but you have plenty of experience with it. So I really want to get both of y'all's opinions on some of these that I wrote out today and kind of just shoot from the hip.
So when you lay out a scenario, should we comment on how we wished we had handled it or how we actually did handle it?
Well, you know what? No, and those are great
They're always
things.
going to be the same thing. I mean, we're going to be perfect, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. But no, I handled this way.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have handled it
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
I think those are great things. But like I said, I have so many people texting me, did you see the video of this? What would you have done if you coached or if you were just the parent? How would you have handled this with your kid? I think it's such an interesting conversation.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Well, we're going to start off scenario one.
Are you going to tell us who the person is that sent this in, or is it all?
No,
but it's some pretty big names, though, right?
They are. Yeah. D-Row, Dan Orlowski sent
So
me
you are
one
tell-
of
you are
those.
gonna tell-
Well, I'll tell, but I'm not going to tell you
Okay,
which
okay.
one.
All right.
But there's some scenarios.
It's not like
that-
Joe from Stockbridge.
No, we're not getting
we are-
Which would be
But
okay.
if Joe from Stockbridge wanted to send in a scenario,
And that's what we would like is we
Yeah.
after we do this episode, if you have a scenario where your kid goes through something and you want to see how the three of us would handle it, I'd love to tackle that matter. man.
Brad really only wants to hear from the top people.
He wants
though.
the big names.
big names,
But
yeah, that's
true.
me and Britt will get
I
in the
do.
weeds with
Joe
you.
from Stockbridge, you are welcome to send us your.
All right, so
Your
the first scenario, we're going right off the bat. Your kid is young, okay, so not middle school, high school, and he's new to a sport and on a team where the coach truly only cares about winning and not about development. How do you handle this as a parent?
Give me go first.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't think yeah, I guess I have dealt with that. But I think that the first thing is you have to decide, okay, is it so bad? Is it robbing your kid of the joy of that season or that sport? The first instinct would be we're going to stick it out. We're going to stick it out for the rest of the season. Obviously, you don't want to quit. But I would try to probably have a conversation with the coach first. And if it seems like that was a fruitless thing, then I would just I would try to just tell my kid, hey, I would try to have a conversation, depending on how old they are. This is really not the way it's supposed to be. You just worry about having fun. You worry about trying to to learn to get better. But I'm trying. It's a tough one because you don't want to be disrespectful to authority. And you don't want your kid to disrespect authority, but at the same time, if that coach has not earned that respect and that coach is misguided, and you have a conversation with them and it doesn't work, it's more just like gutting it out and try to really, really be intentional about next year finding that right coach. Or you go in and coach yourself, which is what happens a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, one, it depends on how old they are. But let's say they're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. A lot of what Brad said, I think, holds true. Number one, I'd encourage my kid to be the best teammate he can be out there, to work his tail off in practice, to have a good attitude, and to bring his frustrations to me, not share them on the field. Then, if it was truly unfair repetitively, at some point I would talk to the coach and try to approach the coach, not from a, challenging them, you're missing the whole thing, not be that parent, but just try to understand, hey, what are you seeing in my kid that's causing them not to play or them to bat last or whatever? What can they do to improve their lot? And try to again, not put them on the defensive, but to make them know that you're seeing it and just see what they have to say.
I think this is why a lot of dads probably
Get into coaching
because I think there's that fear, because you want your kid, your son or daughter, to have such a great first experience in the sport that they try out first. Because if it's a horrible experience, they may not go back to it. And so you're like, hey, I'm gonna be involved, maybe as an assistant coach, maybe as a head coach, so I can at least help control some of this environment, so that all these kids, not just your kid, but all these kids hopefully come away from it with a great experience. Because you don't know what you're going to get. You go to a rec league and even some church leagues, and it's the luck of the draw who you get as a coach. So it's a scary thought.
I actually did that. I had a situation where, I was an assistant coach, but I had no input on who was playing where or anything. And next season I was a head coach because I felt like my kids weren't getting a shot at places that they deserve to get a shot at. And then you had to check yourself that you're not just advantaging your kids.
Daddy ball.
Time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where you don't want it to turn to.
Right.
I like that. So this next scenario is from one of our athletes, and they said that they're seeing in their area a lot more. You're on a team where the coach constantly yells and screams at the kids, almost like they're adults. As a parent, do you step in? And as a kid, how do they handle it?
What age?
He didn't write an age. But so let's do two scenarios.
Yeah.
Let's do it at a young age
Okay.
and a middle school to high school age.
Okay.
So let's do young age first.
You go first, Britt.
Yeah, if the coach is out of line yelling at the kids, especially at a young age, then again, I think anytime you approach a coach, you want to approach them in a way that is not going to instantly put them on the defensive. So, pull them aside, ask if you can talk to them sometime, either after practice or, another night or something like that. And I would just be honest with them. Appreciate them. Tell them how much you appreciate that they're volunteering, because that's what they probably are doing, and that they're investing in these kids. But you don't mind people being tough, but it feels like it's over the line.
Yeah.
And I think you can sit back and wring your hands about, I don't want him to think this about me, and he's going to punish my kid, and so on and so forth. But man, if a coach is really over the line, somebody's got to step up and speak out.
I think the older scenario, because I agree with Brett. If it's a younger team, then you have to step in, because that's not right. There's no way your kid should be getting yelled at, unless, well, I don't know. There's really not a good reason, and maybe if they're just acting like fools and they're not.
Yeah, they never pay
attention.
Yeah,
but maybe. But what's really interesting is what I've seen is parents are really hesitant, especially at the high school level, to call out a coach because they're afraid it's gonna be a backlash against their kid. But I have seen parents handle it the right way, reach out to a coach, not right after a game, reach out to a coach kind of in some downtime to say, hey, look, I really want to hear your thoughts on why you feel like it seems like the kids are tight. They're playing tight because they're afraid to make a mistake, or you're getting on to them for things that, so they're not effort thing. Like who was it that we had on that talked about if you're gonna get onto your kids, get onto them about effort, get onto things
The intangibles.
Yeah, not on like if they boot a
Yep.
ground ball or something like that. But I mean, I think it's a different world we live in. Kids are definitely raised differently. When we were growing up, it was kind of like you just, it's just what you dealt with. If the coach was, a Bobby Knight type coach, that's just what you got, and you just dealt with it. Nowadays, and I think it's better that I think if you're a parent, you got to kind of watch that. If it has an adverse effect on your kid, then I think or if you see it's having an adverse effect on other kids too, then there's probably a conversation. The question comes in at that point is, how do you handle it with that coach, and how do you approach them? You definitely don't approach them within 24 hours. I think you definitely approach them when it's not an emotional time, and you approach them, asking questions like, hey, can you explain to me why this is kind of how you handle that?
I think that's the key to what you just said. You almost draw the conversation out of them instead of them feeling attacked right off the bat.
Right.
I think that asking questions is the best one. Why do you do this?
Mm-hmm.
What's come out of it, and you kind of put it in their hands that maybe get them thinking,
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. That's a really good question, and that's a tough scenario because a lot of these coaches are wired the way they are, and they may be up doing it.
And I think that's the hard thing. A lot of these coaches, although it shouldn't get personal, a lot of these coaches are going to take it personal on what you said. I think a lot of parents are compliant to this because they're scared it's going to cost their kids playing time.
Yeah.
And that's where I come back to sometimes thinking like, what's more important time? More important at times, playing or the character, the way you carry yourself.
Yeah.
It's not an easy. This is a tough scenario.
No, it's a really tough scenario. I had an experience as a kid in 5th grade football with a coach, and we won every game, and he made every kid on the team cry. I never played football again. It was a miserable. We won
Northeast Mustangs or Tucker Tigers.
This was in Tucker, Fitzgerald Field.
Field, yeah.
Yeah, and
Were you on the Lions, Tucker Lions?
I wasn't. I wasn't a great football player.
Yeah, so you were on the COD team.
I was not on the travel. I was not on the travel club. Man, I was not Jeff Rancourt as a young football player. But in all seriousness, I mean, it was, again, we won every game, and it was a miserable experience for almost everybody. So I don't want that to happen to my kid. Now,
do you remember how your parents tried to work through it with you a little bit?
I don't think they worked through it. I mean, it just,
it's
just the way it was.
With it, yeah.
And so I think there's a balance in that. I mean, I think sometimes we're too quick to want to make everything easy for our kids. Yeah. And so I do want to make one more point, and that is, I don't think the worst thing you can do is go talk to all the other parents and just stir up a whole bunch of controversy. I'll throw this out and see what you guys think about it. I think, if you've got one other parent on the team that you can bounce it around with, and it could be you. It could be, somebody needs to say, dude, you're being too soft. He's fine. So, I think you just have to be careful with all that, but you don't want to stir up a bunch of controversy.
I'm with you on that, because the quickest way to get your kid not playing or doing is all of a sudden you're that parent that's gossiping to 6 different parents about this coach ain't doing this coach. I completely agree. That's not the way to handle it.
Yeah.
At the high school level, it definitely seems that it doesn't seem to be too much of a problem at the high school level. I definitely think it's more of a problem at the youth level, the middle school. At the high school level, more parents will take their kids and transfer based on playing time or based on if they think their kid's not being developed by that coach.
Yeah.
It's not usually the coaches who are around for a long time are smart enough to realize how to treat kids the right way.
Yeah.
I don't see too many crazy coaches at the high school level now, but I do see parents who are going to remove their kids from a team, not because they think the coach is too hard, but because, my kid's not being developed or my kid's not playing enough, and it's the coach's fault. Whether it's true or not.
It's good stuff. All right, scenario 3. This was actually one of my favorite ones. I think one of the most debatable ones, because this doesn't happen all the time, but you're on a team where your kid is one of the best, but is being overused and abused to a certain extent. And I wrote on here, like, whether it's baseball, your arm care, whether it's basketball, you're never getting a break. Fear of ACLs, anything, exhaustion. Football, you're carrying the ball 35 times, taking a beating. Like, is this a scenario? Is it?
Gosh, that's a good one, because I think a lot of parents would love that their kid's getting every opportunity.
Absolutely.
And not ever want to see them come out. Pitching is an easier thing to realize, hey, they're getting overpitched.
Yeah.
Coming out of a basketball game.
But I know this is the youth level. There's a lot of these parents that don't say anything when their kids stay out there for 90 pitches.
Yeah. Yeah. There's too much research out there now to let that happen as a parent, I think.
Yeah. Well, the other problem too is when we talk, we've had Jamal Crawford and them talking about these AU tournaments. You're playing 6 games in 48 hours now.
Yeah.
So my point is for these kids to constantly be running and running.
I think the more real scenario is, like, is my kid playing too many games? I've rarely seen at the youth level a parent complain that their kid is playing too much. I think that whether it's right or wrong, I think that they want to win, and if their kid's the alpha on that team, they're okay with their kids staying out there and giving them the best chance to win. Now, as a kid gets older and there's a chance that they can play in college, and they want to keep their kid, preserved best they can, whether it's their arm or whether it's a football player that's playing every single snap and they're worried about their health and concussions and stuff like that, then I can see a parent going, hey, man, I think, give my kid a break. At the youth level, I don't see it too much. I never saw it where somebody would say, hey, you're playing my kid too much. But all
right. So let's talk about the middle school and high school level.
I think that definitely for pitchers, if you see your kid out there and the manager's sending him back out there for the 8th inning and he's at a pitch count of 100.
And I think that what you said is play, but let's talk about, say you're in a basketball tournament and your kid's playing every minute of every game, 6 games in 3-day weekend.
I think that,
I think very few parents are saying
it's
that.
Crazy. I think I would hopefully think my kid didn't play basketball, but I'm good friends with coaches and good friends with people who had really good basketball players as kids. They just didn't think of wear and tear like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's thought of the same way as
they didn't
pitching.
They didn't think about knees or joints, which they probably should have. But man, basketball players play so much. They play open gyms. They're always just playing full court somewhere, and then they are playing a ton of. I do think it's definitely something that should be a concern, but I've just not seen parents complain about it.
I do think, specifically in baseball, if your kid's pitching and they're overusing them, then it's probably because they're the best, and you probably have some leverage as a parent.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry as much about backlash in that scenario, I would think, to go to a coach and say, look, my kid is going to play for a long time, and I appreciate you using him, but I've been counting the pitch. It's too much. We need to give him a break.
I think in football, if your kid's the best player on a bad team, and your kid's just getting beat up, if they're playing running back and linebacker, and they're just getting pummeled every play, then I would say, hey man, my kid needs to come out. This is not healthy.
He's gonna get hurt.
Yeah, it's we're the game's over with, and we're not going to win, and you're just running him into a brick wall.
Yeah,
and then he's getting run over as a linebacker once you stick him on. That's where I would say, like, hey.
But even that's rare, right? And football's one game a week.
Yeah,
for the most part. So I just don't. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels like baseball and maybe travel tournaments and soccer and things like that. But I just wonder, does that happen like volleyball? Does it happen in does it really happen in basketball?
I think the conversation, and it's a great question because it's debatable, but I think the conversation happens. Sometimes the concern is when they're playing both, when they're playing for their, like I remember having a conversation with our high school coach when my kid was playing travel ball and summer baseball and got invited to the lake. This is when the coach, and it was the only time we've ever had an argument. I was like, man, my kid's literally not stopped playing baseball for about 7 straight months. His buddies invited him to the lake for 3 days. He's going to miss 1 summer league baseball game. He just got done playing travel all week. Can he take this game off to go for the weekend. And it was high school now. It was, he was a high school. He was going into like his sophomore year or whatever. And, and it was a tough conversation, and he ended up letting him go, but it was just like that was where I was like, it was more of a,
That's
mental
funny. Cause I do know this coach. I
Yeah.
want to be clean it up, coach.
I mean, but
It's also funny because you were the AD.
yeah, I know. Well, that coach had been there for 30 years, so he probably had more leverage than I did. But yeah, I mean, it was more of a mental thing more than a physical thing at that point.
Wanted to go with his buddies.
Yeah.
So this one here, I like. This was a former athlete of ours that was on the show, and sounds like this might be a little bit from experience. But he said it's more the middle school age, 12 to 14, and you're on a team with a bunch of your friends having a blast, but you're not quite developing, and you're one of the better players on the team. As a parent, do you pull your kid, put them on a higher team, even though the kid's kind of fighting back to stay on this team because they're buddies?
What age do you think it is?
12 to 14 middle school. So you're starting to get into
You think
really.
is this more baseball, you think?
I think any sport.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. Again, this is so tough with football because most of the kids play at their thing. So I'm saying more basketball, baseball, volleyball.
Go ahead, Brett.
I know. In the younger ages, I don't think it's. I'm playing with your friends.
You're on the.
I do think this is interesting. You get to middle school, and these friends you'll play with in high school, but you're elevating yourself, and you're not getting what you need.
Well, first of all, as a parent, you've got to have awareness of, are they really? I mean, what is the ceiling?
Yeah, no, for sure. But
that's
say
a-
the
that's a-
ceiling.
Okay,
say the
it's
ceiling's
pretty high.
pretty good.
Yeah.
They got a lot of potential.
Then I think you have a conversation with your kid, and I had conversations with my kids, and said, hey, you want to do this tennis thing, and you have a lot of potential there, but at some point you're going to have to. You can't play 3 sports and do enough here, and I let them in on that as opposed to me dictating it. So I think it starts with having a conversation with your kid and seeing where their head's at, and you can shape the outcome of that conversation.
Well, as I say, all right, let me play devil's advocate. What if your kid, no, Dad,
He digs in his heels.
Yeah. But you know their ceiling and you know their heart and how they want to play.
Yeah. I think if it's the first time you've introduced the thought to them, then maybe you look for another way for them to develop and say, okay, let's do this this final year. But if you want to do this, you've got to do these things to get there.
Yeah.
And so you make that decision if you want to achieve this, and I think you can, but you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z.
I think you got to do your homework. I think you've got to see like where they're going to. If that coach is really, really a good coach, I think you got to ask the question, if you feel like they need to move up, are they moving up because somebody's telling them they're going to get more exposure? And then you have to be real. Is it true that they're going to get more? Are they in a position where that exposure is really going to help them? Or is it truly about development? Are they going to be playing with better players who are going to make them better? Are they going to be playing against better competition? Are they going to be playing with a coach who's more serious? I think you have to ask all those questions before you just say, oh, they're going to go from a AAA team to a majors team, or they're going to go from a silver level AAU team to a gold level AAU team, because there's a lot of, like you said, if your kid's top 5% and if they do need to go playing in the Nike or the Adidas type AAU to truly get recruited, then yeah, they're eventually have to do that. If they're kind of like top 15, 20% and they're getting told, oh, you need to go play on this team to get more exposure, you got to be realistic to see, is it really good? If it's a development issue, if they're playing on a team they're not developing and it's not about exposure, then I think, there has to be a hard conversation to say, hey, I think you need to, or if you want to play some weekends with this other team as well, still be with your buddies, still have fun with this team, but you may use play some upper level things. Yeah,
it depends on how hard they're digging their heels in too. Yeah. I mean, if your kid is a top 5% and says they have these aspirations, then I think most of the time, as you have conversations with them, they're going to come around to the thinking of, I'm passionate about this. Yeah. I really want this. I mean, we know 70% of kids quit at 13 years old.
They do.
So, if your kid is not having, is not enjoying what they're doing, then they're likely not going to keep doing it. So there's an element of that, but there's also an element of if they don't have enough passion to want to do some of the right things to get there, they're not going to get there anyway. Now, how mature are they? All those types of things. But again, I think this is part of parenting and helping your kid learn what goals are and how you reach goals, and there's sacrifice, and there's some things you have to sacrifice.
I mean, I've seen a lot of kids, and again, we're talking you said middle school, but I've seen a lot of kids do this and it not work right. They get on a team, they get on, and like I said, it goes back to, if the question is development, if they go to, a lot of times they'll be the person with the ball in their hands in basketball on a certain team all the time, right? And they'll go to a better team and they'll be pigeonholed into a certain spot. You're just going to sit on the corner and shoot outside shots for us to win because you're playing on a better team, and we're going to want you to be a spot up shooter, so you're not going to get a chance to develop. In baseball, going to a better team, sometimes you're not gonna play as much.
Yep.
And I mean, and again, you really, if the coach on that higher level team is a known commodity, and that is a great coach who's going to really develop them, then I think you do that. But if you don't know for sure, I've just seen it go the wrong way a lot.
Jeff, you were a top 5%er, maybe a top 1%er. So, and I know your story, you went and played on a team that was not a good experience, and you went back and played with your friends. So
played on a much better team.
Yeah.
Did it.
So what are your thoughts on this scenario?
Well, I will tell you this, that I played on a lesser team with a lot of my buddies, not as talented, right? I shouldn't say lesser. You weren't going to be as talented as some of this stuff, but I was having a blast. But I remember also going into, I think, 7th or 8th grade year, they finally, I be interesting. We've had my dad on here. I've never really asked him this question, but we ended up getting a paid coach to come teach and coach the game with my buddies. So I stayed and played with my buddies.
So you got the best of both worlds.
I did, but I wonder what my dad would have done had we not done that. And it was two of these guys' parents coaching still.
What do you think you would have done if your dad, I mean, at some point it clicked to you that I have a chance.
It did, but what you were just saying with the lake and doing this, like, I love to golf. I love to be with my buddies still and go to movies and go to the pool.
Yeah.
That was a big priority for me, man.
Yeah.
As much as I knew that I wanted to keep developing, part of my thought process was like, Dad, I don't want to be gone every weekend.
Right.
Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And that's where I think with some of these sports, and especially not so much football, but probably basketball, baseball, volleyball, the travel, like, how do you balance being gone every weekend to some of these tournaments and doing this to actually living a life and enjoying yourself, enjoying your families, enjoying your brothers and sisters?
It's all of them except for football.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe track.
I think, but I think Jeff Francoeur in 2025, you would have been put on a different track. They would have identified you at whatever age it was, and it's just different now. You'd have been. I'm not going to name the teams you'd have been on, but you'd have been on those teams.
But you say that, but my dad's been on this podcast before.
Yeah. But I'm saying, your dad.
Dave Francoeur don't screw around.
No, but I'm not saying that you guys would have made different choices. I'm just saying,
but I'm
you would have
saying
the pressure to say, dude, you're a top. You're going to get drafted probably. You have an opportunity to play at Clemson or whatever. You need to be playing in these tournaments for these teams. And it's just a lot more pressure than it was back
It is,
then
but
at
I
the
do
time.
know this, and this is something I can go ahead and tell you, because I know a lot of two-sport athletes in baseball and football face this. If there was a baseball tournament in the fall, I would not have been there.
Yeah. Now that's
And I
different.
truly,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, a lot of these kids now, they talk this show. My dad, when we got to football, I told him
I
it's
think
July
that
10th.
I think that's the same. But I think the bigger issue is the 95% is that they're being told they should be playing up, and they should be playing on these higher level teams, which I would sit there and say that doesn't matter. If you're not going to get recruited D1, like, it's all about fun and development. Even as you get older, like, you still want to develop, you still have a dream of playing D1, but you're not going to get recruited unless you're a top 5% kid. So your path's different, which means you can still get there, but you may have to walk on. You may have to go D2. And that path is probably all about development as about showcases.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, they'd have told you, like, I don't think they'd have told you not to play football. I think they'd have told you, though, hey, you can't play with your buddies. you need to go playing in these tournaments in Texas and Florida because you're going to get drafted possibly. And that's the conversation you guys would have to have. But you still love football so much. That was probably what kept you playing football.
Yeah.
But I just think it's very different now. If you are labeled as a top 5%, they're gonna and the family has to make some hard decisions, especially monetarily.
And I think this is good because we got two more scenarios. This kind of leads me into my next scenario. As a parent, you have a kid who's playing 2 sports in high school, right? Very good at one of them, maybe not as great as the other, but they love doing it. So my question is, as a parent, do you urge your kids to keep playing 2 sports? Or do you urge them to possibly, maybe the coaches aren't getting along, right? Maybe it's like, hey, we need you at this more. We need you at this more. Kind of like Kirk Cousins. He gave a great one on this one. Remember, he said, I stunk at basketball, but I loved playing and loved playing with my buddies.
Yeah. It depends, it's so situational because one, it depends on the sport. I mean, a football is, in my view, is easier to play another sport in. I think it depends on how realistic is it that your kid is going to be a D1 or drafted or whatever that plays into it. I mean, I think the principle should be that if your kid is having fun playing multiple sports, do it as long as you possibly can manage it. And so if they have a sport that they're really good at and can take it all the way to the top, and playing a second sport is truly going to be a hindrance to them, that at some point in time you may have to back off or coach them to back off. But unless that's the scenario, if they can manage it, let them play.
Well, I'll throw a different spin at you.
Okay.
And here in the state of Georgia, they don't do a lot of favors for multi-sport athletes.
They're horrible
unless
job.
You're football.
Hey, GHSA, if you're listening, it stinks.
So unless you're football, but football dictates everything here. But it makes it really hard for a kid. So let's say a kid who's a legit baseball prospect, right? But they love basketball. Yeah. And I do think you should. If I've seen so many kids have the best time playing their second sport because there's no pressure, and they're just with their buddies or their girlfriends. Point. But let's say they want to play basketball. They love basketball. And they're not going to play. They won't start playing on their baseball team until like 10 games in. Yep. And so it's just really, really hard. I think it's also based on which sport's the second sport. If they're a legit basketball player, the same thing happens with football. But there's a worry about them getting hurt. I think if you're a football player who wants to play baseball, hey, that's awesome. But if you're a baseball player that wants to play
football, so say this: take the 2% that are going D1. Or just the 2 that were going to be good high school players.
Yeah, I think college coaches legitimately. I think if you're a dude or you're a dudette, I think college coaches love 2-sport athletes. Yeah. I think they love the fact that even if they're just a contributor, but they're not even a star on that second sport. But I think when you're talking, I think the college coaches probably love it. Now, as you're a parent, if you're top 2% and you're dealing with NIL money now, you're dealing with getting drafted. Those conversations come into play now, whereas they wouldn't have come into play in the past. I think for mental health wise, let them play the second sport because I think it's such a great thing for them. They have so much fun playing that sport that's not their sport. But I think when you get to a point where you're dealing with money, you're dealing with like the money you're dealing with now, it's a different conversation. I don't think it's right, but I think that comes into play.
Nice.
Again, it's so situational and so depends on the sport.
It's a great question, man.
Yeah,
That's a great question.
It is a great question. I don't think it's a gray area.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other problem with that, and that's for another time, but the amount of these high school coaches that aren't willing to work with other coaches to have multi-sport athletes, we're losing that year by year.
Yeah.
I've heard numerous scenarios with a basketball coach. Well, if you're playing football and you're not going to be at this in, September, this kind of thing. But then what you're doing, right, is these coaches are putting pressure on the kids and the families to say, well, maybe we'll do football, and when practice gets done at 7, we'll go do conditioning for basketball. No, that's. Yeah. I had a girl in middle school practice last week. Her mom, we had practice, and she's on the 6th grade cross country team. And I'm like, great. And they had their first meet. And she was like, we can leave that and get the last 45 minutes of softball practice. And I'm like, no, go to dinner
Man, this is great. We actually had a DM. No, a guy emailed us on our website last week, and with this exact question. It says, "I've heard you guys talk about multi-sport and how great it is.
Yeah.
And I have a different scenario in our high school. They're encouraging kids to play multiple sports
In the same
and
day.
do it just like you're talking
no,
about."
Season.
Because then you unless you get
Yeah.
the freakish kid
Yeah.
who just loves it, which is maybe one kid in a school.
Yeah.
And that's what I told this mom, and she was great about it. And I told her, because she was like, "We'll be done." Our softball practice was from 5:30 to 7:30. Their meet, she was like, "We'll be done." It was up and coming, which is like 30 minutes from Buford, and she's like, "We'll be done at 6:10. We can be at softball at 6:45." And I'm like, so she was just about to run a whatever it was, long cross country. Then she's probably going to be hungry. You're probably not going to stop because you're busting it over to get to softball. So maybe she has a bar in the car. And then she gets over there for 45 minutes. She's exhausted.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, enjoy your first cross country meet. Go to dinner after.
You don't have to
And
schedule
as a
every
parent,
minute.
no, that's what I'm saying. As a parent, I want to say, go grab a margarita and celebrate your daughter. But it is interesting because there are coaches out there. Yes, get her over here right away. And I'm like, dude, this girl hasn't missed a practice.
Right.
Every time and that's where I go back to even when I was in college and I got recruited by football and baseball, Tommy Bowden always took the stance at Clemson that if you can help our school in 2 sports, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said his dad, Bobby, if you remember Florida State, took that standpoint.
Dion.
Absolutely. But he was always like, Charlie Ward,
Yeah.
basketball and football, he's like, if you can help me in 2 sports, I'm all for it, man. You make the school better. You bring out the best in other people. And I'm just like, how have we gotten to now in 6th grade that these parents are worried about their kids?
Yeah.
And especially in 6th grade, we got girls playing flag football, girls playing volleyball. And so I always tell them, like, if we have 2 softball practices a week, just make sure your kid's at one of them.
Yeah.
So if they have to miss a volleyball thing on one day and then there's a game, like whatever that scenario looks like.
Yeah,
Don't cram it all in.
Yeah, don't do 2 in one day.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, and I'm not always trying to do the counterpoint, but I always use high school as an example, but I think the kid and the family have to tell the school, this is our primary sport and this is our secondary sport. So a lot of times if a kid's a basketball player and that's their primary sport and they've agreed because they're a good athlete to play football to help the school out, a lot of times they will do a shoot around after a football practice because they want to, because they want to.
Shoot around's different than
the
getting out there
conditioning.
in full-fledged.
They shouldn't be doing. They definitely during football season, and we've had that scenario. They should not be doing an open gym. They should not be running.
no.
They're going to get hurt and hurt their football.
Absolutely.
But if they want to, like after football practice, want to go in the gym and shoot around just to keep loose,
And that's where I go back to that question that was the overuse for a kid. Right? That's overuse.
Yeah.
Going from football for 3 hours to an open gym basketball.
that's where the basketball coach has to say, dude, I know you. Even if you want to run full court with it's not fair to your football team.
But why are basketball coaches not doing that?
That's what I'm saying. They should say.
No, I know they should. Why are they not?
Because that's their job, and they don't want to lose their job.
Okay, but at the same time, like this
I'm
goes.
not saying it's right, but I really do think it's not. It's the pressure is not coming from the coach. The pressure a lot of times is coming from the kid, but the coach has to step in and say, "No, you're doing a disservice to your season team by doing because you could get hurt, and not be."
All right, before I get in more trouble,
Chris is making notes over there.
He's got his Cowboys jersey making notes. CeeDee Lamb. This was not so much a scenario, but he said something that he's had to deal with his kid, and he was wondering ideas to motivate your kid to keep playing when they're not getting any time to play.
When they're not getting any time, you mean when they're not getting playing time?
Yes.
Okay. And
But your
how do you
kid
keep
loves
them
the
engaged?
sport. How do you keep motivating them until the next year, maybe where they can get on a better team or you can move them? What's the ideas to motivate them?
Well, I think that they need to listen to this podcast first of all because there's so many great stories. We just had Greg McElroy on talking about he was.
Yeah, because think about this.
Yeah.
Your son comes home. There's only so many times you can tell him, hey, keep working hard, get where they're like, whatever, Dad.
They don't have a perspective that we have as adults. They can't think. I mean, gosh, their view of life is so much different than our view as an older person who's seen it and seen that it's a marathon, not a sprint. They're only seeing their season in life right at that point. But I think it's just, hey, if you still love this sport, just keep fighting. The key is keeping them loving that sport. If they love that sport, like I said, Greg McElroy went from an offensive tackle to a center to sharing time on the second JV team to sharing time on the first JV team to sharing time on the varsity to finally getting a chance to start as a senior because he loved football so much. He could have any time said, man, I don't. And he said, I didn't see myself having a great future. Like I wasn't even thinking about being a college. He didn't have the dream of being a college quarterback. He just loved football and loved playing, and he just kept fighting and kept developing. But it's really hard. This is probably the most common scenario we faced is like, don't let your kid get discouraged. But you have to say, hey, that's what role models are so important too. Is that they can look at a role model and that role model can say, look, I was in your same spot when I was 10 years old and I wasn't getting a chance to play, but I kept working and I grew. I got stronger. And hopefully they can hear you because the dad and the mom can be good, but the role model's a different voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all that's good. There's no silver bullet here. I mean, we talk all the time about.
No, that's why I was saying ideas. I think
we talk all the time about.
All parents struggle with at least one of their kid in this scenario.
Yeah, for sure. And part of it, this is the value of sports for life because this is life, and I think. Teaching your kid that you talked about a marathon, not a sprint, but there's chapters, in your story, and every chapter is not going to go the way you want it to go, but that chapter is going to end and there's going to be a new chapter. And in sports, it's seasons. You might not have a good season. You might have a disappointing season, but there's another new season coming up. And so learning to endure, a situation that's not going great and press on and press through that. That's life and there's value in that. Now, that doesn't mean that a 10-year-old is going to go, thanks, Dad, I'm ready to go. But it does give them something to hold on to. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're doing as parents in tough situations is giving our kids something to hold on to that says the story is not written by what happens in this moment.
You know what's funny is also besides a mom and dad, a grandparent, whatever, what I've learned growing up too, having an older brother and older sister and seeing it with Braden, my 9-year-old just starting football, being very unsure, is my 12-year-old daughter, Emma Cade, has been very good kind of keeping him going. Hey, you got to keep learning the game. Yeah. So I think we overlook at it sometimes. That's why we talk about the sibling relationship, but having a sibling come beside and having someone say, I remember my brother and sister, they were both older than me. And there were times, hey, you got your butt kicked. You got to get back out there next week and do something. And it's one thing to hear it from a mom and dad, but to hear it from your sibling, I think sometimes can mean more.
Oh yeah. That's great. I mean, the tough thing about it, whether you're in a small town, whether you're in a community, these kids kind of see themselves slotted, and that's as sports becomes so much more serious. Oh, well, I'm the third receiver now, and I'm going to be the third receiver for the next 6 years. I've already know that I'm not going to get it. And they don't see that a lot of these kids are probably going to drop out. A lot of these kids are going to move. A lot of these kids are going to go to a different sport.
Some kids are going to hit a growth spurt.
I mean, it's a matter of just it's probably a common quote, but like half about success in life is just waking up the next day and doing it again. Just sticking it out, not quitting. And that's the message I would say is like, hey, and it's that way in anything in life because you're at a point where you go, well, I'm never going to be as good as this person, or I'm never going to, but you can't. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how you're going to change. You don't know how they're going to change. And just tell them if you love this sport, just stick it out. Wake up the next day, give it your best chance the next day. But I love the sibling thing. That's great.
Yeah, all of us deal with this. This is almost every parent deals with this at some point in time with their kids. And how do you motivate them when they're not motivated? And it's just hard.
And because you start getting the excuses, get off the bus. I don't feel good today. And it's like, bull crap. You've been totally fine. I guarantee if I called your teacher an hour ago, you were jumping off the wall. It's just that they don't look forward to going to it. And I think that's why I've been on that huge Ernie Johnson kick. I think I've had numerous conversations with y'all. One of our former guests on here talked, you find as a coach, if you're coaching and listen, find value in every kid.
Yep. That's a great that's a great message for coaches is every kid on your team, if you don't understand what makes them unique and special, whatever that is, and some are harder than others, they need to be communicated to. Like, because those kids feel like they're lost already in the shuffle, and they're not being, even if they're not playing a whole lot, or even if they haven't hit their growth spurt or whatever, that coach's job, really, gosh, what that coach says, that kid's going to mean so much more than what the parent says.
It means everything. Think about it. You, especially as you get to high school, your parents, you always feel like you're going to hear that stuff, but to hear a coach tell you like, man, you're doing great. Keep in the grind. Keep doing this. That gives that kid, that young girl or boy, another 2 weeks of getting after.
I've had 1,000 conversations with parents, and you would not believe like a 1 minute compliment from a coach to their kid lasts that. And I've heard parents talk about a 1 minute compliment they got when they were 14 years old.
100%.
It's so crazy. These coaches have so much power. Like it's a positive power opportunity to influence a kid, but if just one thing, hey, you know what? I see what you do this. You do this really, really well, and just hang in there because I think you're really going to develop. That will take a kid for 3 more years.
You know,
It'll give him energy.
I've been watching this stuff. I watched Ernie talk to the University of Georgia football team, man. It was incredible. And I know we've had him on here. I've seen him speak numerous times, and I actually just reached out to him last week to just tell him thanks for being him and being inspiring and telling him kind of, you know, scenarios that we're talking about here. And, you know, and that's what he said. He said, what I've learned in all these years with my kids, now grandkids, the kids don't necessarily crave to be the best on the team. They just want a spot on the team. They want value. They want to know they're helping the team win, whether that's 12 plays a game or 60 plays a game. And it's like, you know, you're so right. Most kids are built that way. And we as coaches don't bring that value out in them.
Yeah.
So,
and we as parents get them stressed out about things that they wouldn't be stressed
that they
out
can't
about
control,
if,
right? And that's what we talk about, right? Know the ceiling of your kid
Yeah.
too. Don't expect them to do this if they can't do it. So
We as parents need to, when we do see that in a coach, and we do see a coach doing that, we need to recognize that coach.
compliment the
that
coach.
Yeah.
Tell them thank you.
Man,
for
that
doing
that
what
meant a
you're
ton to my
doing.
kid, and keep doing that for sure.
Yep.
it's good stuff, Jeff.
Yeah, man, this was good. So DM for anything you want on these. Don't do it about me. But no, give us your feedback. I mean, I would love to dig into more scenarios because I know this. I got 4 kids. I've already hit some of these scenarios we talked about, and I'm going to only hit more along the way.
Yeah, there's a contact us form on our website at pureathlete.com. So send in a scenario to us or a question to us, and we'll use it on a future one of these.
Yeah, it'll be good. So, all right, guys, we enjoyed it. Hope you all have a great week.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out more videos from us right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a thing. Follow us on social media at Pure Athlete Inc. for even more content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.